No, your speakers are working fine. Sorry. Deconverted Man here. I gotcha. You thought the volume was down. I got ya. Anyways, so how many logical fallacies can a single person perform within the first few minutes of a video? A lot, apparently, is the answer to that redundant rhetorical question. Bear witness with me as we explore this video by a YouTuber called Apologetics Unchained. Ooh, so edgy. Unchained. Yes, unlike those chained apologetics, this is unchained. Wow, amazing. Um, and wow, just it's just amazing. Just here we go. I just check it out.
Oh, atheists, the self-proclaimed guardians of reason, the fearless warriors of logic, armed.
Are we though? I mean, I don't know. I I love logic. Some other atheists might. I mean, it depends on the atheist, I suppose. But yeah, I guess we're guardians of reason and logic now. Oh no, how terrible!
with, well, mostly Twitter threads and a pathological hatred of Christmas.
Twitter threads and a pathological hatred for Christmas. It's a weird poisoning of the well to offer. Um, okay, sure, whatever. Um,
They love to lecture us about evidence and proof, while
well, I don't mind doing it. I don't know that I'd say I love doing it. If you personally, Apologetics Unchained, would bother to learn informal logic, then you wouldn't make the fallacies that you make. At least the likelihood that you would make them would be less, I think. So rather than me lecturing you on it, why not learn it so that you don't do it? Like you already did poisoning of the well starting out with, which is a logical fallacy. So, uh, I wouldn't have to lecture you if you would not make the fallacies.
pretending that their worldview is just the default position.
There is no such thing as atheist worldview. This is an apologetic trope that has been addressed many times, and I don't know why some apologists think that this is, I don't know, a good idea to do. Um, as far as it being the default position, atheism is the default position. You don't start out life believing in, well, much of anything, but you definitely don't start out believing in God. Now, eventually, you will develop beliefs about reality based on observations of other humans and reality around you. And isolated from a belief of God, it is highly unlikely that you will develop a belief of God on your own. But through history, this happened at some point in history because humans as a group did invent God. It's unclear if that was an individual undertaking or a group undertaking that happened, or how old those people were because it's so long ago. So I don't really know when that would occur in an individual if they weren't introduced to the concept of God. But if you never were introduced to the concept of God, it's highly unlikely that you would make up a God. And if you did make up a God, it's completely unlikely that it would be the gods that we know of today. It would maybe have a few similarities, perhaps, but it would be very much its own thing. So, yeah. So although lacking a belief in God or not believing in God is the default position of humans, broadly speaking, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't tell us that it's true. It doesn't tell us that it's false. But it does tell us that the idea of God must be generated later in life. It is not something that automatically imbued in us, evolutionarily speaking. Okay, you're not born knowing that there's a God, no matter how much theists would like that to be true. Now, if you want to demonstrate that was true, then you'd have to do some study to show that that's true. But whether it's the default position or not doesn't. And then there's a secondary part of that default position in which, when you first were told about God, when were you told about God? Probably when you were very young. So that matters, because when you're younger, you have less cognitive abilities than you do as an adult, broadly speaking. Now, if you got introduced to God later on in life, okay, but there are all sorts of factors into why somebody would believe in God versus why somebody would not believe in God. But ultimately, we are told about God by other people, not by God itself. So that should tell us something in regards to this thing that we are calling God, mainly that it doesn't tell us about itself, not anymore. Maybe it did in the past, and now it just relies on humans to tell each other about it for whatever mysterious reasons that you could come up with and make up. But then the problem is, people lie, and people make up stories. So why wouldn't they lie to you about God? Why wouldn't they make up a story about God? Whether or not you can figure out a reason why they would do it, that doesn't negate that they can't do it. They could do it, and why wouldn't they? Especially if there's something to gain. Primarily, your obedience to their ideas, your money, your time, your energy. Okay? And whether you know it or not, you are contributing to the continual propagation of the idea of God by acting as if it is a real thing rather than just an idea that you've been presented with. The idea of God is just an idea until it can be demonstrably proven in some way, which you can't do, you won't do, and no theist anywhere has ever done. And apparently, God is sort of the thing that you just can't demonstrate because reasons. Yeah. Anyways, but yes, it is a default position. That doesn't make it true or false, but it is true that it's the default position. Stop crying about it. Deal with it. But it's not a worldview. It's part of a worldview, but is not itself a worldview. Atheism is just not believing in God. That's it.
But here's the dirty secret they don't want you to know. Atheism is, dare I say it, drowning in faith. And in fact, it requires more blind leaps than Christianity.
Tu que. This is the logical fallacy called tu que, which translates to you as well. There's this fallacy occurs if and when somebody says, well, something like, one example is that they're a smoker. And they go, smoking is bad for you. And you would say, but you're a smoker. Well, that's true. They are a smoker. But that doesn't negate their statement that smoking is bad. That they are also doing the thing that they say not to do doesn't mean it's false. Maybe they're in a better position to know that it's bad for you. As they cough up a lung. I'm dying here. But this tu que, you also have faith, just like I do. We both have faith. So we're both equal. That is the fallacy of the tu que. That's part one. Part two of this is you're now saying, implicitly, you are implying that faith is something bad. Why? Because you're saying you need more faith to have this position. Why would we care if you need more faith? Well, Obviously, that's bad because otherwise, saying you need more faith would be good. And you're implying that it's bad. So it's bad to have faith. So, what is faith? Well, now you can't get away from what the word faith means later on when we reveal that you have faith, because the word faith, well, there are a couple definitions, but one definition is belief without empirical evidence or repeatable testing. That is faith. In fact, it's even defined a similar way in the Judeo-Christian Bible. Faith is the hope of what we don't see, and all the confidence in what we don't see, or something. I can't quote it because I don't remember anymore, but it's in there. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. So blind faith, a belief in something without any evidence of it. Okay. So you are saying there is a quantity of faith that is necessary to have in order to maintain position X, and that's a having more is bad and having less would be good. Okay, so then one should try to rid themselves as much faith as possible, which doesn't get us to your level because we'd have to look for something that requires even less faith than your position, because you are tentatively granting that your position also requires faith, just less faith than the other position. So we would have to look for some system that required no faith or anti-faith, if you could have that position. Now, my position is based solely upon empirical observations and repeatable testing that I or others can do. I believe it if I can see it and demonstrate it. Here is a blue plastic cup. Wow, it's a blue plastic cup. Amazing. I believe that this exists. I have no choice but to believe it exists, and now it's on my head. Good thing it didn't have liquid in it. Now, the question is twofold here. One, how long can I keep this on my head? And secondly, will I forget what I was talking about? Damn it, I did. Go back. Oh, there, that answered the first part of the question. Anyways, let's go back to the video.
Let's expose their three biggest unproven faith claims using the words of their very own leaders.
We don't have leaders. That's not how atheism works. There is no leader of atheism, and Dawkins definitely isn't one of them. This is another apologetic trope, which, Dawkins. Like, dude, I'm subscribed to Richard Dawkins, but I haven't watched the last 3 videos he uploaded. I don't, I'm interested in the science that the guy has to say and not much else. He published a book and that about God being a delusion and did a couple debates, and that was it. He's not really that prolific of an atheist. Uh, there are way more prolific atheists. Why not mention like Aaron Ra or Matt Dillahunty? Those are pretty big names in the atheist sphere these days. There's been even bigger atheists that have gotten out there now, but I think at least those names would be bigger. But Dawkins is famous because he's a scientist and he was an outspoken atheist for a while. He doesn't really talk about it that much these days. People bring it up to him, but he doesn't really go out and promote atheism. So he isn't a leader, and we don't have leaders because we're not like you guys. So this is what? A poisoning of the well, straw man, and also just not true.
Faith leap number 1. Nature is all there is.
Okay, definitely a straw man, because not all atheists would agree to that statement that nature is all there is. I myself would not make that statement because it is a superlative to say all or nothing. I don't know about all. I only know the limited things that I know about. I don't know the entire world, but I could make some general observations that probably apply to the entire world. But I definitely don't know about the entire galaxy that we're in, uh, and or the solar system that we're in, or the universe that we're in. Those are beyond my scope and the scope of all humans. So I could not quantitatively say that all there is nature. However, I could say that all that I'm aware of is nature, and that would be honest, and that would be my personal position. But because you pretended like this is my position, that makes a straw man, thus another logical fallacy, which is another reason why we have to think that your conclusion, whatever it's going to be, is one we have to be skeptical of. So, not doing too good.
So, naturalism is the belief that the natural world is all there is to this universe. No God, no supernatural, just atoms and energy and chaos. Sounds scientific, right?
Looked to me like you were kind of bored of that, which just makes me wonder what lack of education you have on the matter. It's amazing that we're made up of atoms and molecules and subatomic particles and the universe. That's awe inspiring. If you want to talk boring, the Bible is boring. Oh, the Bible. Oh, we're all just here. Let me mimic him. We're all just spirits and souls, and there's a God and an afterlife. Oh, it's so boring. Acting like something's boring doesn't negate it. Doesn't make it untrue. Your enthusiasm about something doesn't make it true or false, or your lack of enthusiasm doesn't make something true or false. It perplexes me that you would be so bored about reality, but in a way, I guess that makes sense. When you believe in magic, I guess normal reality would be kind of boring. Hey, look, we're all part of a big giant soul thing. No, we're not all part. We all have our separate souls that are made by people, and then we go be with the big soul that's God, that's always been, and God has magic, but not really magic, because from God's perspective, it's nothing special. But from our perspective, it's like, wow, God can do stuff. Oh, that's so cool! Yay! And I'm just like, man, that's boring. What are you going to do there? We're going to worship God. Why? Because for how long? Forever. That sounds boring. Anyways.
Except it's not. Science studies the natural world by definition. It can't disprove the supernatural any more than.
And that's actually a mark against you, not for you. Yeah, science cannot disprove something that is not a thing, because that's how it works. You can't disprove magic or leprechauns or pixies or fairies either. And more to the point, you can't disprove something that has no way to falsify it. Your idea of the supernatural needs a way to falsify it. A thing that would, if true, say, no, this idea is false. So, what thing doesn't count for the supernatural? What thing would not count towards evidence of God? And if you can't name that thing, then your idea is not a scientific idea, which then makes one question, why do you have this idea? What is it that you're basing this idea on? What is your epistemology? How do you arrive at this conclusion? If you're not using the scientific method, what methodology are you using, and how does that methodology function, and can it be demonstrated to get to the truth or not? And if not, why are you using it then? So I would ask you, what methodology are you utilizing to get to the conclusion that the supernatural exists? Forget about that it can't be disproven. Try to prove it then. If you cannot do that, why should we believe in it?
Then a submarine could disprove the mountains. And even atheist philosophers will admit this. Michael Ruse even says, Naturalism is a metaphysical position, not a scientific one. Which,
Yeah. Okay, so some philosopher that you found said something. That doesn't make it true. But yeah, naturalism is a philosophical position and not necessarily a scientific one per se. And science, by the way, doesn't assume naturalism. I know many theists pretend that it does. Science just observes what is and records and documents the phenomenon at hand and tests it. That's it. It's just that. But God, here's God. It's not there. And any test I can conceive of to run on God fails. Hey, God, I've been told about God that God can hear me right now. In this moment, God can hear me. Okay. I've also been told that God cares personally about me, and I would assume about everybody listening to this right now, listening to me. Everybody that's in the chat, God cares about all of you. That's what I've been told. Now, I don't know if these things are true, but again, I'm just going on what I've been told. Okay, so God can hear my words right now and cares about me and all of you. Okay, and I've also been told that God has significant powers and abilities far exceeding those of mortal men. So this plastic cup that is extraordinarily easy for me to manipulate with my hand is not something that I can make levitate into the air because I don't have those powers. I can throw it in the air, but it won't stay in the air. Now, if I put it on my head and I say, "Hey God, if you love and care about me and or anybody in chat, levitate this cup off of my head into the air." Don't knock it off because I'll knock it off by just, tilting my head. That wouldn't count. Like have it lift off into the sky. Whoop, and that would be amazing. Oh man. Okay, God, do that now. Please. God, can hello? Hello? So now I have to make a conclusion based on that experiment. My conclusion is that God is not listening to me and or God does not have the power to do that particular thing. And or God does not care about me or the people in chat or those listening later on. I'm not sure which of those is true, but any of those could be true given that this experiment has failed to produce the result that I would expect. If God was all powerful, could hear me, and did love me and other people, then it should have no problem in levitating this cup off of my head for a moment. Not only would that demonstrably demonstrate that God exists, but it would also prove that God hears me, is powerful, and cares about me. So God doesn't do one of those three things, or perhaps all three of those things. And another possibility is also that God simply isn't around, doesn't exist to do those things at all. So I'm not sure which of those possibilities is true, but since my experiment has failed to yield a positive result, that is my conclusion. So tell you what, you get your friends, your family, your entire church together, and you pray for this cup to levitate. And when it does, then I'll believe in God. Now, the apologist response, the Christian response to this, the theist response to this will be, you can't test God. How do you know that, though? Well, I mean, we did test God, and God failed that test. But if we're going to go with the Judeo-Christian God, and you really think that God can't be tested, I'm going to have to question how well you know your own Bible. And I'm also going to have to question you if God changes, because I've been told God doesn't change. If that's true, then based on the Judeo-Christian Bible, God is testable because there was a test performed on God. God versus Baal. Way back when, there was two altars set up, one for Yahweh and one for Baal. And the Baal people prayed and prayed and prayed for the altar to light, and nothing happened. And the Yahweh person prayed once, and the altar lit on fire. So, Do we need to set up that same scenario again? I'm happy to build an altar to Baal and to Yahweh under biblical conditions that it would have been built. Let's get some Christians to pray for Yahweh to light their thing on fire. I'll be happy to pray for Baal. I'll be happy to pray for Yahweh. It doesn't matter because I know that neither one's going to light on fire. It's not going to happen. And the Christians will find all sorts of reasons why God wouldn't do that experiment again. But those would be hollow sounding excuses to me because all you're doing is saying God did change. God doesn't allow for this test anymore. It used to, but now it doesn't. That's a problem.
Roughly translates to, this isn't science, it's a philosophical assumption. Also known as faith, but wait, it gets better. Wow.
So something not being science makes it faith in your view. Well, then you do have faith then. It's just you have faith that the natural world isn't all that there is. But your conflation with what something is faith is your obvious confusion about it. It's just based on that you're ignorant of words.
Christians say that God exists beyond nature, it's unfalsifiable nonsense.
Well, you already said that it was unfalsifiable, and you're the one saying it's nonsense. So, okay, it's nonsense. All right, cool. Can you prove it at all? What you got? Do you have any evidence at all? No? Why should we believe then?
But when atheists say nothing is beyond the natural world, it's what? A scientific fact?
Atheists don't necessarily say that, but to say that there is just the natural would be a decent assumption to make given that we've never observed anything that isn't natural. So seems like there's no faith required to make that statement to me. Not that I make that statement myself, but yeah, that's not something necessarily scientific per se, but that doesn't make it faith either. You just don't know how words work.
How? How? Mind you, they say this with zero proof. But hold on. Their faith, it gets better. It gets better. Trust. Faith leap number 2. The universe made itself.
It's just another straw man. Atheists don't say what made the universe, and they don't comment on it, broadly speaking, unless they happen to be a cosmologist, which would be the only person really qualified to talk on the matter, in my view. Sure, other people can talk about the universe, but they don't know. I mean, they haven't studied anything, they don't know the math involved. I rely on the science of cosmology to decide what my view is of the universe. And cosmologists don't have a consensuary agreement per se. It does seem the majority does agree basically with what's called Big Bang cosmology, but even that is questioned. And there have been studies to show that scientific agreement of that idea isn't as great as we once thought. The area of cosmology is a difficult, complicated area of science, just like every other area of science. But you would need to demonstrate that the majority of scientists who also happen to be atheists have all said this thing about the universe creating itself, which I don't know that any scientist anywhere has ever said. Now, if you could, now setting that aside, just show me a bunch of atheists that have said that the universe came from itself. I bet you couldn't even show me one atheist that ever said that. Can you? Because you don't have any actual proof of any of this stuff. You're just making stuff up. This is straw man construct. It's when you construct a straw man. It's not even that it's a weaker version of the argument. You're just making up what the argument is and then attacking that argument. So, another logical fallacy. Whoops.
A lot of atheists will claim that the Bible is just a myth, especially the creation story.
It's not even a claim, it's a fact. The Bible is a myth, especially the creation story. Although I wouldn't say especially anything. It's all a myth. I mean, but yeah, the creation story is completely fabricated and stolen from other existing ideas around at the time. So, not sure why you're so defensive of it. Oh, right, because that would ruin your whole entire Bible, right?
Meanwhile, they have a creation myth of their own.
And there you go with the too cute Quay again. No, we don't have any creation idea at all because creation implies a creator, and atheists don't believe in that. So, no, there is no agreed upon idea that atheists hold for the origin of the universe. That's not an atheist stance because there is no atheist stance because atheism isn't a worldview. If you were to poll the various atheists out there and ask them, what made the universe, I dare say, I think all of them would say, I don't know. They would probably even reject the question too and say, that's not a loaded question. Now, I made a video a while back showing that a bunch of atheists all agree that we don't say that the universe came from nothing. So we've knocked that down at least. We don't think that the universe came from nothing. But I don't know where or how the universe came to be. I have no idea. I'm not a scientist. So I don't make any claims about it. Thus, your statement is a lie. Just a lie. Just not true at all. And so, why should we listen to a liar? Not sure, but you're going to keep on lying, aren't you?
They'll say, no, wait, quantum fluctuations. But even atheist physicists admit that this is nonsense.
Citation required.
And their entire origin story is nothing equals something. And we're totally not making this up.
Nope, not an atheist position at all. Like I just said, have a whole video. I mean, just come on, man. I mean, you can't. You just it's like it's just it's just amazing, just amazing. Here's I'll put that video in the link to below. But there's the video that I did. I mean, just come on, man. Do atheists think the universe came from nothing? Let's count. Here, we have uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, 13 something like maybe I had 14. I thought 13. Okay, at least 13 people may have miscounted, but there you go. At least 13 atheists that have all said no, we don't believe the universe came from nothing. You're a liar. You're a con man. You're scum. But also, you don't have an argument. So I'm just saying, like, even though I've insulted you, I just want to make it clear that my insults have no bearing on your argument. All right. But I am quite irritated that you're promoting lies. Cut it out. Now, I'll gladly retract all my insults of you if you withdraw your statement that atheists think the universe came from nothing. That you even would suggest that shows you know absolutely nothing and you are lying about it. Shame on you.
But the best faith claim is still coming up. My favorite one, quite honestly, is this: science will explain it all. Not science does explain it all, but science will explain it all.
Just another straw man. We don't know if science will explain all the mysteries that there are, but if anything is going to explain it, it will be science because that's the best thing that we have. And if we develop something better, I don't know if we would change the name. I don't really see why we would need to. But it's the best methodology that is, period. There is no greater methodology available to us. The methodology of science probes the real world and gets real results from it. That's why you have a computer, you nitwit, who also doesn't have an argument. Just want to make sure that after I insult him, I make clear that he doesn't have an argument. Because an ad hominem doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter that he's an idiot. He could still be right. He's not right, and he's an idiot. So, or nitwit, whatever. Either way. But yeah, no, this isn't a thing. This is just another lie you're doing. Just another straw man. Okay.
Consciousness? Nah, science will explain it later. Morality?
Science already has decent explanations of consciousness.
Nope. Come back in
Morality has been explained by evolutionary biology.
100 years. Meaning of life? We're working on it.
Science wouldn't comment on the meaning of life. That's wholly subjective. So it's outside of the scientific field. You just don't know how anything works.
So, atheism leaves a lot of unanswered questions.
Atheism isn't about answering questions. It isn't about anything because, again, it's not a worldview. It is a single position on a single issue. If you ask the question, do you believe in God? And the answer is no, you're an atheist. That's it. It's a description, not a prescription, okay? Not all atheists are skeptics, but all skeptics are atheists. Not all atheists are materialists. Not all atheists are naturalists. Some atheists might consider themselves materialists and naturalists, or one or the other, but not both. Some atheists might consider themselves spiritual. You could believe anything you want as long as that thing isn't God and you are an atheist. You could believe in an afterlife. You could believe in spirits and souls and demons and devils and angels. As long as you didn't believe in God, you would technically be an atheist. So that's how broad of atheist is. So your continual you're just clueless, you're just continual non-understanding of word doesn't make you right. Okay. It's just hilarious to me. And I don't know how you're on the internet and you don't know this already. So I guess you just are willfully ignorant. Shame.
Very rational. Atheists mock God of the gaps, meanwhile they worship science of the gaps.
No, atheists, broadly speaking, don't worship anything. And no, God of the gaps is absolutely real. Science of the gaps might be a thing, but when we don't know something, we say we don't know. And we don't say, well, science will one day explain it. We might say that. I don't know. You don't have any examples of anybody saying that ever because you just are making up shit. So you got nothing to offer at all. Your argument sucks. You don't even really have an argument.
Future science that might solve problems that modern science can't. That's not skepticism, my friends. That's sci-fi religion.
You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
So let's recap. So atheism's number one axiom, that is naturalism.
Nope. No, it's not. That's a straw man. Not all atheists are naturalists. I'm not. Not by the pure definition of it. I don't say that all there is the natural. I would say that all I know about is natural. I don't have any reason to believe there's anything other than the natural. So please demonstrate non-natural.
It's an unprovable faith claim. Their origin story, something from nothing.
We don't have an origin story, and atheists don't believe that the universe came from nothing. I have at least 13 examples of that.
Nothing violates all known physics, and all these answers that they seem to have for it are, we will know later. We'll find out later. Science will figure it out.
Again, just more straw man. We don't know that we will or will not figure it out. But again, if there's going to be something that figures it out, it will probably be science because you would need a methodology to figure stuff out, and you don't have that methodology.
Seems like faith. Come on, am I missing something? What? This is faith. But sure, yeah. Christians are the irrational ones. Remember that. Remember. So here's the truth. Atheism is a faith. One
No.
that can't explain logic.
Nope. Atheism is not a faith at all. You're stupid. And your argument sucks and is full of fallacies. And also, you don't really even have an argument, anyways. You just have a bunch of lies. So I can't really count that as an argument. You didn't even actually have a syllogism. So actually, you don't even have a valid structure. So you got nothing here, buddy.
Morality. Consciousness. Not without stealing from theism, of course.
Yeah, atheism doesn't claim to explain anything because that's not what atheism is. You're a moron. And also, your argument sucks and is broken and full of fallacies.
It's a very hollow worldview,
It's not a worldview.
propped up by blind faith in
Nope.
naturalism. You go, atheists. You go.
Thanks.
So, next time an atheist is mocking and wants to ask, where's your evidence? Maybe you should turn the tables and ask them, where's yours?
I love that. Yeah, go ahead and tell them to burden switch because that's all you can do. You don't have evidence. That's the problem. If you had evidence, I would believe you. Okay? Just show me God. Here's God. Ooh, there you go. If that was God. I don't know that this blue cup is God. I mean, maybe it is God. How would I know? I don't even know what God is. You have to tell me that. Isn't that interesting? We have to rely on humans to tell us what God is. God itself doesn't seem to tell us anything. Not anymore. It did long ago, apparently, but it hasn't said anything since. Why is that? I don't know. Anyways, bunch of logical fallacies here. Anything else to say? Nope. You're just done. Okay, well, that's like the most amount of. I mean, I've seen worse fallacies, I guess. But if all you have is straw man constructs, uh, QQ quiz, and outright lies, you don't have much of anything to offer anybody. And then for you to suggest to people that they switch the burden of proof at the end is just icing on the cake. You don't have a valid argument because you didn't have any syllogism to offer. And so you don't even have an argument in that sense. What you have said is logically flawed at every single level. So, for those reasons, we must be skeptical of your position. But I would say it goes further than that because you lied to people. Maybe not knowingly lied, but you did certainly mislead people. Whether it's intentional or not, I don't know. Depends how stupid you are. Like maybe you are this stupid and you don't know that you're lying. Or maybe you're smart enough to know that you are lying. I don't know. But regardless, what you said is not true. And so we should discard your conclusion in full. Theists, you got to do better than this. It's getting pathetic. I don't have a faith position. I don't believe in God in general because I don't even know what God is. I don't know. How am I supposed to know what God is? Will you tell me what God is? Okay, why am I supposed to believe that you know what God is? How do you know what God is? There's the problem. And whether we can answer any question or not is irrelevant. Either you have proof of this thing that you are claiming or you don't. And if you don't have proof for it, then there's no reason to believe in it. And you don't have proof that God is even a thing other than just an idea. So we shouldn't believe in it. And unless and until you provide us with empirical evidence, repeatable tests, or a valid and sound argument, we must continue to be skeptical of your conclusions. That's it. We're done. See ya. Be skeptical.